Hello, welcome to RevelatorAlf. I hope you're enjoying the channel and the series, and you're joining me for another Oh My Harley. And I'm joined here live from the United States. It's Black Dragon from Black Dragon Biker TV. Thank you very much for joining me. How are you, sir?
I'm outstanding. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
Oh no, I'm absolutely ecstatic to be speaking to you. I've been a fan of your channel for a long time, and I really enjoy the content. So let's just talk about you for a minute. You know, tell us a little bit about Black Dragon Biker TV. What's all that about?
Well, Black Dragon Biker TV started almost 4 years ago, about 3.5 years ago. And I really started it because of issues I had in my own motorcycle club. There are a few things, issues I had in my own motorcycle club, especially with what I considered the changing environment of United States American motorcycle clubbing.
Right.
And the caliber of people we were getting in. We were having a hard time with retention, and we were losing a lot of the traditions and culture, and we were losing a lot of the things that I felt made motorcycling, especially in a club, in motorcycle clubs here, we expect it to be family and brotherhood, and we're getting a lot less of that, and a lot clubs started exploding. You were getting hundreds and hundreds and thousands of clubs that have popped up since movies like the movie I Made Biker Boys, and television shows like Sons of Anarchy and things like that. Yeah. And when I saw that, I was just like, maybe, I've done a little bit to kind of destroy the culture. Maybe I could do a little bit to help the culture. The other thing I was facing was I was writing motorcycle books, and when I was trying to advertise the books, I didn't have enough money to advertise them. I would try stuff like Facebook advertising, and you need a lot of money to drop and sustain even a Facebook ad program, and Facebook advertising is actually quite inexpensive. And so when I would do things like, I had this huge network built up on Facebook, and Facebook used to have this idea: build your network and then use the network you've built to get out to your people.
Yeah.
And that happened in about 95 or so, when Facebook was first getting going. Well, sometime in the 2000s, they changed that paradigm to build your network and then pay Facebook to get to the network you've built.
Yeah.
So if you would try to do something like make a post, I started a book, they would throttle you. Like, maybe if you had 5,000 people that followed you, your post might get out to 140 of them. So if you would try to go and type to each person, hey, I got a book, after about maybe 100 messages or so, they throttle you and say, oh, no, you can't make any more posts for 2 days or something.
Right. Yeah.
So I was thinking, how can you get around not being able to afford to advertise and yet advertise? And the idea hit me that the only thing they don't really throttle are viral videos.
Right.
And I could make a viral video. It would be free advertising if I had something to sell. So those are the two things that got me to doing Black Dragon Biker TV, which originally started out as Black Dragon National President, was the name of the channel initially, because I was the national president of the Mighty Black Sabbath Motorcycle Club Nation, which is a 46-year-old motorcycle club this February. So as the national president of that, I started Black Dragon National President. And the idea really was to teach my bikers in my club, and to maybe make some videos about subjects that were kind of generic to us all, and maybe get a viral video or two out there. And I had no idea that it was going to explode into what it has become.
Well, I think judging or looking from the outside as I do into your world, I think it's just a very interesting subject matter, and I think you're always going to get lots of people who are in the motorcycle club scene, for example, all over the world, who would value an independent point of view from somebody who's credible, as you are. but also from somebody like me who's not in the motorcycle club scene. Actually, it's also really interesting because I've always been really interested in how groups work, group dynamics,
Right.
communication, structures, that kind of thing. So I think, you know, motorcycle clubs have that. And, you know, to have that explain and also to give guidance on a lot of issues that you do, I think that's why your channel works, I think.
So here's the crazy part, though. When I started this channel, you know, people say, you know, you're so wise and we come to you for all this advice and everything. And I would say this channel has taught me way more than I would have taught the world.
Absolutely.
And I had no idea. I really thought that I would be talking to mostly Black bikers on the Black American biker set. Because even in America, we have two biker sets. Actually, every color, just about, every race has their own biker set. It's highly segregated here. And so I really had no idea that there were motorcycle clubs all over the world.
Yeah.
And that they all operated pretty damn near the same. So that when I was giving instructions to what I thought was my group of people, like it's going out to the entire diaspora, if you will, of motorcycle clubbers all around the world. And I started getting, Romania and Egypt and Israel and all these places, Russia, all these places, the UK, Germany, and people saying, oh my God, I'm watching you in Australia and what you're talking about is working. And thank you so much for teaching me. And my mouth just dropped. The first year I was just floored when people from Scotland and Ireland and it really let me know, wow, this lifestyle I'm living is being lived by people all over the world. There are vagabonds like me that love these motorcycle things. We want to lay out in the field next to the bike. When you wreck your motorcycle, you get up limping with an arm falling off, talking about, oh my God, how's my bike? And this is normal for us abnormal people. This is how we all. So now I have friends all over the world. I have people watching all over the world. I have my books are selling all over the world, and it's just for a guy that meant to talk to a small group of people. It's just still amazing to me how many people that the channel actually reaches and touches and changes lives. Because we want your motorcycle career. My idea was, how do we make it fun and how do you make it livable and how do you make it real? And so many people just are misinformed and miseducated about what this lifestyle is really about. And I just wanted to teach it from my point of view, from my over 30 years in my motorcycle club. And I had no idea that it would resonate so well with people all over the world, that I would be talking to a show host in the UK one day is RevelatorAlf. That's just amazing to me. And I still can't believe it. And I feel incredibly lucky and awesomely blessed to be able to touch lives. Oh, and I'll tell you, let me say this too. At the time I started my channel, I was the lowest spiritually, mentally. I was going through a breakup with my most beautiful, darling love of my life, and I thought I was gonna die at any minute. While I was helping the world and blowing up the most, my heart was absolutely broken, drained. I felt like I wasn't going to be able to make it to the next step. And I thought, I said to God, I said, if you give me my true love back, I will reach out to touch your people in the way that I can to make their lives better. And for me, that would be bikers, because I'm not a preacher, so that would be bikers. And the funny thing about God, if you believe in God, is he doesn't make deals. So he made my voice able to be heard, and you're going to do my work, and we're not going to make a deal about it. You're going to do my work. So the woman never came back.
She didn't.
She never came back.
Oh no.
So I thought that I had made a deal with God to get my woman back, and no, she never came back. But the channel did. If you want to say some of God's work, I think the channel has done that by just the numbers of people that call me and write me and tell me how I managed to help change their life, teach them something they didn't know, or make their motorcycle club life easier.
Well, it's an interesting thing because I think that's very commendable in what you started out to do, then also how it's evolved over the last sort of 3.5 years or whatever. And you're right, it has reached all over the world. I mean, I used to have a motorcycle magazine a few years ago, and I was surprised. Even then, I wasn't really on the social media side, but I was surprised at how far I could reach and how many people I could just communicate with just on the basis of having a motorcycle magazine. And it's exactly the same now. You know, the internet, social media, you can stretch across the world. Look, we're talking to each other via a video link here, and it's just, you know, it's amazing. Let me ask you this question before we get into the dirty dozen questions, which I really want to ask you. Do you think that all the questions, all the inquiries that you get on your channel, or all the way it's become so popular, is because there have been so many new motorcycle clubs have started, not only in the United States, but all over the world. And maybe there has been this kind of Sons of Anarchy influence. Maybe everybody thinks, hey, we're going to start a motorcycle club. But they just don't have the tools. They don't really know what they're supposed to be doing. So they thought it was a good idea, but actually when it comes down to it, they don't really know what they're supposed to be doing. So all of a sudden your channel comes along and it's like, wow, this is amazing. We've got somebody who's telling us what we should be doing and how we should be doing it right. What do you think to that?
You know, I think it's the amazing thing about technology and the absolutely amazing thing about YouTube, because I have used YouTube to learn everything from how to fix my RV to how to do my job as a technical writer. When I was an engineer and a technical writer in the real world, there were like, I remember I went and got this job, and they required that I knew how to do FrameMaker, and I had no idea how to do FrameMaker, but I knew how to use PageMaker, and I figured if I knew PageMaker, I could figure out FrameMaker pretty easily. I went to YouTube, and there was a whole school on how to do it, and I think that learning, like a place like YouTube, has become the bastion of human learning. And I don't know what's going to take its place, but whatever it's going to be even more incredible. That whatever the hell you want to know, whether it is baking cookies or changing oil or cleaning out a sewer or becoming a biker in a motorcycle club, somebody somewhere with nothing better to do has sat down and decided to make an A to Z course on how to do that. And I think that so yes, I think it has something to do with Sons of Anarchy. It has something to do with the movies. Hollywood has been doing this forever, but people have a basic need to belong, and people have a basic need to find constructs that will support them mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically. And a motorcycle club is like the Masons or any other kind of thing you can imagine. Yeah. Sure. And I believe that the Sons of Anarchy and things like that spurned in people this idea of ruggedism and freedom, and people are wanting to escape to that. As the cities are getting bigger, there are less opportunities to get out into the world and fly hard with the wind in your face. And motorcycles is an inexpensive way to do that, unless you're buying Harleys and things like that. And I think, but the problem is that it is a society that already exists, and it has some very hard, fast rules that if they're not followed, they can get you killed.
Yeah,
because you're dealing with the big 1,000-pound gorilla in the room, which is the 1%er motorcycle club, at least over here on this side of the pond. Yeah, and they have very strict rules. This is a society that already does exist. And so when you jump out there and you say, oh, I'm going to start a motorcycle club, and you have no idea, you just think you buy a motorcycle and get started. Like with anything else in the world where a society has already been built up around it, you run hard, fast into these rules. And that's when they get on the internet and they say, oh, thank God, here's a guy with 700 videos that can help me out. And now there are other guys coming, and there are even more opinions out there than mine. Myself and you guys have Dibber over there on your side of the podcast. You know, we're like the first few guys to get started at this. But now, you know, you got young kids coming, and they've got all their incredible video and graphics and stuff. They learn, and they learn Apple computers in school. I still can't use an Apple, so they're, you know, it's going to be much better. But yeah, I think that had a lot to do with it, and the fact that I hit at the right time, right place, right time, as all of this was exploding, to be where I am today.
Well, I say I like your videos, and I like the kind of videos. It's interesting you touch on YouTube as an information resource, because that's what I primarily use YouTube and Google for. It's to find out information. So I like watching videos that give me information, and it's quite clear information. I suppose a lot of my videos are like that as well. They're either discussion topics as they are informational videos, but it's about a clear message for me. I don't really like having lots of, you know, singing and dancing going on in the background, and lots of. It would be nice to have a few dancing girls going on in the background. I give you that. But you know, that's a distraction from my message, if you know, and that's what I like about yours. You know, it is just about the message, just about the information, and that's what I like. You know, and I think that's why people come to your channel or come to channels like yours to say, well, actually, do you know what? I just want the information. You know, don't give me. It's funny you said you don't preach. I think you'd be probably one of the best preachers out there. I honestly do. I said before we came on air.
I do get that. I'm too afraid to play with that. But
I think you standing at the plinth, I tell you, you know, with a motorcycle behind you, you know, and some an organ made of exhaust pipes.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I can see it.
I like that.
Right. Shall we get on with these dirty dozen questions?
Well, you know, I want to tell you one thing that I find very interesting. You were a publisher before.
Yes.
And so am I. I've published motorcycle magazines. Actually, I had 2 motorcycle magazines. So I just find it interesting that we're both publishers that would find ourselves here now on this medium. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. It's odd. I mean, I must say I was a failed motorcycle publisher.
Yeah.
I will hold my hand up. I was a failed.
Well, we got a bunch of hands going up here.
Oh, bless you. Right. Okay. First question then, sir. Look, what motorcycle are you riding now, or what was the last motorcycle you rode?
I have more than one motorcycle. My favorite motorcycle is my everybody knows this too. My Victory Vision. I have a Victory Vision Premium Tour that is just completely laid out. That's my cross country riding motorcycle. And that's what I ride the most. I also have a Honda Goldwing that I get out on, and I still have not in Atlanta, but I still have my old Gixxer 1300. Actually, I have my Gixxer 1100, which was a 1987, and I have my Hayabusa. I still own those motorcycles. Haven't ridden them in a long time. So I've got many motorcycles and access to many more.
Beautiful. Yeah, Hayabusa is a great bike.
So for me, I'm not a brand person. My brother actually just came in and he rented that Kawasaki Concourse, and we took that up through the mountains. Yeah. And he just bought. I think he's buying one a day, so that I can have access to that when I go out and visit him. He'll have a Kawasaki Concourse for me. So it doesn't matter what the bike is to me. If we're on 2 wheels and we're getting down, I'm having a great time.
Let me ask this question. We'll probably touch on this a little bit later on, but within, let's say, your motorcycle club or your motorcycle set, your scene, is it like that you can actually ride any bike you like, or are there certain clubs that will say, no, you've got to have an American-made V-twin, or you've got to have a Harley, or whatever?
So on the black biker set, all bikes are accepted.
Right.
The black 1%er biker clubs are American-made VTwins. Period. Mostly Harleys, almost exclusively Harleys.
Right.
My motorcycle club, the Black Sabbath, we always allowed any bike. The way it was if it was a race bike, it had to be a. I remember we first started letting in the race bikes when the what was it? The F3 Honda came in, F2, F3, something like that. So we allowed the 600 or 650 cc race bikes. We allowed those in, or any 750 cruiser. But as my guys got older, damn near the whole club is now on Harleys, my whole club. And I had to get off the Goldwing because the SOBs didn't want to ride behind the national president on a Goldwing. So they forced me to go to an American-made V-twin, and I was so mad at them until I saw the Victory Vision, and I was like, oh, that's it. I'll do that. And the Victory Vision was, it handles exactly like a Goldwing. It's just almost 100% like a Goldwing in handling and speed, and I was really pleased with that. It's a V-twin. It's not a 6-cylinder, but it's not water cooled. But I could deal with that. And for me, probably the next bike would be the Challenger Indian.
Well, interesting you say this, because before I got my Harley recently, I'd never had an air-cooled bike, or not first since I was a kid. And I always had sports bikes or, sports tourers, that kind of thing. But then, or adventure bikes, being into my off-road biking as well. But I got this Harley, and my learning curve for Harley Davidsons and V-twins is on quite a steep learning curve. However, before I looked at Harleys, the only V-twin that I liked was the Victory motorcycles. I thought, do you know what? They are a perfect antidote to Harley World and anything else. Now, at the time, Indian weren't really around. I mean, they just kind of had one bike, and that's about it. And then when Polaris said, do you know what? We're stopping Victory, and we're going to put all our eggs into Indian, I was like this. I've got no hair left. But I was like this, why are you doing this to me? Because I went to a motorcycle show and I was just about to put money down on a Victory. I love those bikes. And there are lots of people out there who would agree with me, I'm sure.
Oh my goodness. I was brokenhearted. And I'm not getting rid of my Victory. And in fact, I'm going to get another one just like it because I just love that motorcycle so much. But what the Indian Challenger is I think that was the next Victory that they were going to come out with. And oh my God, that looks good. Oh, I've ridden it. It is something else on another planet.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, next question then. This kind of goes neatly into the next question, actually. What do you think of the technology that's on your bike, or actually on newer bikes? Compared to what they were a few years ago.
Oh, I'm an absolute gadget head.
Right. Yeah.
If you were to see, I have computers everywhere in here. I have all kinds of recording equipment and all this stuff, and computers here. The iPad there. I'm surrounded by technology. I love technology. I have my Fitbit that connects to my phone. All that business. You can't give me enough of that stuff.
Yeah.
I love my heated hand grips, and I love my my automatic windshield that you press a button, it gets higher, you press a button, it gets lower.
Hold on a minute. I'm going to interrupt you now. Hold on. Right. And anybody listening on the podcast about this, I'm holding my hand up and I'm stopping Black Dragon from talking. Right. You live in Atlanta, Georgia. There is no way on earth that you have heated grips. No way.
People have this idea that Atlanta is some sort of heated summer palace or something.
It is. That's where they film The Walking Dead. They're all sweaty and dirty.
Yeah. In most years, it is beautiful here. However, we get it cold as hell here.
Really?
But
Yeah.
I'm from Oklahoma, and it has all the seasons.
Oh, yeah.
And Black Sabbath, we ride nationwide.
Right.
And so you have to have a bike that can roll through cold weather. And because our mother chapter is in San Diego,
Oh, right. Okay. Right.
and we have to ride to the mother chapter annual, which is in February, one of the coldest months in the United States. We have to ride over 2,600 miles every winter in the middle of the winter from Atlanta to San Diego, California. We call it the cold ass run to the mother, the cold ass run to the mother. And it is miserable and it is cold. And you got to have a cold weather bike, cold weather suit. It will, it separates the men from the boys. And so because we ride long distance and we ride all over the coast, we're going to be riding to Ohio this winter. We'll be riding to Minnesota this winter. We'll be riding up to Daybway, which is a Native American motorcycle club, has invited us to ride up, and we'll be riding up this winter. So I wish that I could be land-based here in Atlanta and ride something all nice like that. But no, we ride.
Good man, and that's what I like to hear. I become an all-year-round rider as well. I love on my channel. I do these kind of crazy, stupid long-distance endurance rides as well. But let me ask you a question then, a man-to-man, as it were. And we're going to start measuring each other's digits here. But what's the furthest that you have ridden in a single day or a 24-hour period?
Well, and that's a neat thing that you would ask. Oh my goodness, I wish I had my my vest. My vest is right over there somewhere. So the most I've ridden in a day, I have ridden. I want to say I think I've done 1,500 miles in a day. Our biggest time. I used to be the biggest distance rider in my club, but over the last 2 years, a couple of guys have taken over. I think we got one guy with 1,700 or something, 1,750 or something like that.
Yeah.
The guy that was just national president, they did a Four Corners run and the Four Corners of the United States, and they did I think a 1,700 mile run, something like that, 1,600, 1,700 mile run in a day. And we had a couple. We had a father and son that did. They did actually 2,400 miles or something like that. And they did it in a day and a half and never stopped riding. They rode the whole time through. So what I created in the Black Sabbath were these run patches. Somebody asked me one time, are you going to get the Iron Butt patch? And I said, well, what on earth is the Iron Butt patch? And there's a group here that gives you an award for doing all this crazy riding. And I thought to myself, why the hell would Black Sabbath wear anybody else's patch? So I created my own. So we have the 1K in a day patch.
Yeah.
That's 1,000 miles. We don't do kilometers here. We do miles. 1,000 miles in 24 hours. We have the Snow Bear Disciples patch, 5 states in 32 degrees of weather or less, degrees Fahrenheit. So that's freezing here, freezing. So we also have the Poseidon's Disciples patch for riding 5 states and driving sleet or rain. We have the Nomad Adventurer patch, which is 2,000 miles. We got a 5,000 mile patch. We have the 1,000 mile patch, the 1,000 mile Bull's Horns. So, and then you get a star for every time you do it. So when I come walking in, my jacket is just full of stars from all the 1,000 mile or 2,000 mile or 5,000 mile journeys I've made. So it's like walking around looking like a general. So
do you know what we call you, or what I would call you in England? I'll call you proper.
Proper.
You are proper. You are proper, mate. Do you know what that means? That means you can walk the walk and talk the talk. There's no worries about that. If you can ride, and I love riding long distance as well. And when you say you did 1,500 miles in 24 hours, I was like, yeah, you just beat me by 50 miles. I did 1,457 in 24 hours. I've just done a ride all around Great Britain to every single Harley Davidson dealership, and that was 1,802 miles in less than 36 hours.
Oh, that's tough. That's tough.
But I've got to come over to America. I used to live in the United States, by the way. But I've got to come over. I've just got to hit your highways, your straight roads. And I tell you, I always thought I could do more than 1,700 miles in a 24-hour period.
Come on. We'll do it together. Come on.
Well, I tell you what, that's an invitation. I will hold you to that. I will hold you to that.
Well, we will do it together. And as a matter of fact, when I was in the Navy, I've been to England a few times, Portsmouth and a few other places like that. And just Plymouth. I was at Plymouth. Beautiful, beautiful city, beautiful people. I just love the UK. But you guys don't have the long rolling highways that we have that go on forever and ever. And then you ride on the wrong damn side of the road.
Well, we would like to call it the correct side of the road. Absolutely.
You guys are so used to Yanks coming over because you got these big damn signs with these arrows like, you should be here.
That's right.
When you make that left-hand turn, you go here, idiot. Not there. I said, oh, wow, they must have known I would be coming.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, brilliant. I could talk to you for all day. Right, okay, look, next question. This is, let's try and get this back on track. Look, how long have you been riding motorcycles? I think we've already touched this. But listen, what was, I suppose, your first experience briefly, but I want to know what is your best time riding, or what you can remember as your best time riding.
So we got 3 questions there. So I've been riding since I was about 4 or 5. I remember when I was 4 is when I learned how to ride a bicycle, and my parents were mad because I took the training wheels off. They didn't feel like I was ready because I kept falling. They forbid me to take the training wheels off. So I went around the corner to my friend's house and rode his bike and busted myself wide open and got a spanking for riding, and I wasn't supposed to. And from that day forward, I was, I had to be on 2 wheels of some sort. There was a biker I was about 5 or 6 years old. And he came riding by one day and I stopped and stared at him as he rode by, and he spun around. And this was a very bad time in America. It was very racially divided and very prejudiced and that sort of stuff. And kids were coming up, disappearing and hung by trees, all kinds of crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so this guy, this white guy, rides back up. He's a hippie with hair everywhere. And he says, "What the hell are you looking at, boy?" And I pointed to the motorcycle, and he was so mean. And when I pointed to the motorcycle, this big old smile comes on his face. And he goes, "You like this, boy?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I do." And he said, "You want to go for a ride?" And I said, "My mom says I can't ride with strangers." So he introduced himself, and I can't remember his name. Let's just say Bob. I'm Dangerous Bob. Now you know me. I'm not a stranger. And he held his hand out, and I grabbed it, and he put me on the tank in front of him and took off. And I could hear my mom screaming as she came running to the road, but he was already gone. We were gone maybe an hour or 2, So when he comes back, there are police everywhere. My mom is in a frenzy, and he's just got this big old smile. He's riding, he's dipping, taking turns. My eyes are big. I'd never been on anything that moved that fast. And when he got there, my mom, she just tore into his ass. She just came fighting. And he had one hand. He wasn't even bothered. She was a woman. He wasn't bothered. My dad was really mad. The police snatched him off the bike and had him his hands behind his back, and they were arresting him. And he looked at my mom and he said, "That's all right, Mama. He's ours now." And, and he was right. I had a fascination with motorcycles. So that was my first experience on a motorcycle. And from there, I just had to have one. And I grew up in a farm area, so all the kids had motorcycles. We all had mini bikes and go-karts, and so I was able to get exposed to that early. My best time riding is always on the Cold Ash Run to the Mother chapter, because it is it's absolutely freezing some years. Some years it's not. It's absolutely freezing, and it requires every ounce of attention.
Yeah.
You have to be in shape. You have to be in what I call riding shape. You've got to be focused. You could be riding and hit black ice or anything like that. You gotta get up in the morning. You got to be in before the sun goes down so the roads don't freeze up. We've ridden through snow. We've ridden through whiteouts. We've ridden through sleet. It's riding at the crux. You're just riding on the bleeding edge. And then once you get past Texas, it all changes and it becomes summer.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely crazy. You go through mountains, desert, plains, flat land, congestion in the cities. You hit Los Angeles, and now you can ride in between the cars legally. So it is all of the very different aspects of biking. You're riding through the dunes and the deserts of, so you see all of America for all its glory, the painted desert, the petrified forest, all these things. It's and you're riding with your brothers, and you're riding in a pack. You're 110 miles an hour, peg to peg, rolling hardcore. Those are my best times riding. Sleeping out in the wilderness and listening to the coyotes, that kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I've got to say, I'm with you there 100%. Not necessarily, riding with buddies or whatever, with your club brothers, but in terms of whenever I ride and I'm pushed to the limit, or I know it's a real challenge to ride, whether it's a long distance or whether it's in adverse weather conditions, that's when I might not necessarily be really enjoying it, because let's face it, who really enjoys riding in freezing temperatures?
No one.
You've got to be a nutter, maybe like me. But what I'm saying is, I really enjoy that kind of riding. Something that tests you, something that you think, do you know what? I'm the only damn fool out here doing this. Do you know what I mean? So that's a beautiful. I wish I could be invited to come along and ride that with you one day. You know what I mean?
Come on.
He's waving me on. He's waving me on. Right. Somebody get my ticket. I'm going. Right. Okay. Next question. Okay. Lots of people talk in the VTwin world, or motorcycles in general, talk about modifying your bike and all that kind of stuff. Do you like customizing bikes? So I think you sort of mentioned it with your Victory, but what kind of modifications or have you done or would you do to it?
Very few modifications. If you're going to ride a motorcycle long distance, when you start, can I curse? Is it okay to curse on this channel?
Mildly.
If you're going to start doing shit to it, you're going to F it up. How about that?
I can't believe you swore. No, go on, carry on. Sorry, I'm about to go.
If you're gonna, once you start putting the 26-inch rim, you destroy a touring bike.
Yeah.
And we get up big distances, so we need things like, so you put the power commander on it, and you just killed your gas mileage. You start modifying the jets and all this, so you get a great bike that'll run the quarter and run from light to light. But when you get out on the highway, you got all these expensive parts to replace, and you, especially if you're riding a Victory Vision, there aren't very many Victory dealers. There's a Harley dealer on every corner, but the Victory dealers tend to be 400 or 500 miles apart. So you need to have the bike the way the factory built it. So if you pull in and you got an issue, they already have the parts or can quickly get them. You got the aftermarket parts, and you work a job, and you've got to be back Monday, and you're 1,000 miles from home, and it's Saturday afternoon, and now they're telling you, well, it's going to take us a week to get you parts. Now you got to find a way back home. So on my distance bikes, we leave those things. The things that we put on those would be thumb locks for your throttle. We might put bigger windshields on, or we might put foot highway pegs. External stuff.
Sure.
But if you want a big engine, buy a big engine.
Yeah.
If you want a fast bike, buy a fast bike. All the modifications and all that business really don't do well unless you're modifying it to run that distance.
Yeah, absolutely right.
You put that power commander on there.
Yeah.
When you're running our bikes, you're running 5-6 gallon gas tanks, so you can ride about 4.5 hours on a gas tank. So that's about maybe 300 miles, 250 to 300 miles on a gas tank, 225. I don't ride with little tank people. If we got to stop every 100 miles to get gas, we got to stop every hour to get. Are you serious? That's not a distance bike. So we have distance bikes, and I don't really. The only thing I do customizing are seats, strips, external stuff like that.
Yeah. No, I'm with you 100%. I'm with you 100%.
Those bikes. I know if I have a race bike, of course I'll customize it to do the quarter. Yeah. But other than that, nah.
Yeah. So, right, okay, I'm of the same opinion, exactly right. I mean, I kind of, most of my bikes that I've had before, the ones that have been my daily bikes or my commuter bikes or the bikes I want to be reliable, I very rarely touch them, The ones that are, I want to increase my cool factor, but I don't really care about my reliability. That's the way it works with customizing, in my opinion. Cool factor goes up, reliability goes down, and I'm usually stranded on the side of the road, which is not good. If you want to cover the miles and say, and I like, we both like to ride long distances or whatever. It doesn't have to be long distance. I could be making a 30-mile trip, and if I break down after 10 miles because I've tried to eke out an extra 10% somewhere, it doesn't work. Anyway, no more preaching from me. No more preaching. Next question. Yeah, that's right. We had this character here many years ago. He was a comedian. He used to come with the big hands and say, preaching. Anyway, enough of that. I digress. Listen, here's the next question. What do you think? This is more along your kind of expertise, really. What do you think of modern motorcycle cultures? Does it resemble anything that you once knew, let's say when you were first starting out or when you first got into the club life?
I think the club life is in jeopardy. I think the club life is really in jeopardy of total failure. We have seen this in places like Australia, in other places in Europe where major clubs are being shut down and told you won't wear colors here or we're going to put you in jail. Right. I think Australia is the worst example. And I think Americans, we are so used to freedom here, even more so than you would get in other Western cultures in Europe and places like that. We have freedoms. We can curse out the president if we want. We can burn the flag, things that people just can't do in other places. And so I think it's going to come as a damn shock to American bikers when we start seeing more of these draconian kinds of things that go down that are happening in Australia. And people that don't watch, I mean, our laws are almost exactly the same. We will borrow from one another's laws. One of our civil asset forfeiture laws actually come from British maritime law. So, we have people getting pulled over on the highway and all of their money taken from them. And this civil asset forfeiture comes straight from what was happening in Europe. So I think that we are going to see some differences. And we're already seeing that in places like Texas, where the profiling of bikers has become outrageous. And it's not just the motorcycle club biker. It's also the fellow who we have these mob flash mob groups of bikes. Flash mob is the best thing I can come up with, where they all decide to show up someplace and they've got these adventure bikes and we call them enduros.
Yeah.
They've got these enduros and dirt bikes and four-wheelers and all of this business, and they just show up by the thousands, take over a city, stop the traffic, and wild out. And there's no understanding among them that society will only tolerate that so long
Yeah.
before they come up with a draconian kind of law that stops you from being able to stop society. And
Yeah.
kids don't think that far in advance. And so it's going to ruin it for a lot of us. And it's going to be all across the world. And I think there's going to be all kinds of draconian measures against bikers in general, and most especially motorcycle clubs, as people are getting tired of their SHIT.
Yeah. Look, definitely the times are changing. I think, I think people in general have changed. People's goals and aspirations have changed. People want different things from motorcycling in general. Then I think, clubs and the way society reacts to that kind of thing has also changed. But let me, this kind of brings me on to our next question as well. What do you think of the motorcycle clubs now and the new generations coming into this into the motorcycle club? Do you think that the clubs have to evolve to accommodate the new way of thinking from younger guys coming in, or do you think, actually a lot of these clubs, they just need to hold firm and stick to their traditional values, and then that might see them either disappear or that might see them flourish?
You have to always think of the dodo bird and the dinosaur, and all things that cannot adapt and change will die. You got to have new blood, and if you don't have new blood, you will die, because you don't get to live forever and you don't get to ride forever. That's something I'm finding out, that
Sure.
riding forever is a question now. Am I, the cold ash run for me gets tougher every year.
Yeah,
So I think that clubs are going to have to change. Listen, I rode motorcycles originally because it was cheap transportation.
Sure.
When I was, I don't know, about 17, the freeze plugs blew out in my cars in Oklahoma. It got so cold, I didn't have antifreeze in the car, so the freeze plugs blew out. And it took me 6 months to get the money to get the car fixed. I rode my motorcycle in the snow, rain, sleet, both feet on the ground, that sort of thing. Well, my motorcycle was a CX500 Silver Wing Honda.
Yeah. I know.
Water-cooled, shaft-driven. And that bike cost nothing. I don't even think the bike cost $1,000. It might have been $800 or something to buy that motorcycle. These kids are buying electric motorcycles, and an electric motorcycle is not going to ride across country.
No.
So they're buying what they can afford there. So with this kind of thinking coming into the clubs are going to have to change.
They're
going to have to change to accommodate the new people, and it was just like the old people when we came in. When we came in, we were riding crotch rockets, and these guys hadn't seen anything like that. When they came in, they were riding raked 450 Hondas, and you guys may have seen those over there. But these long, huge front forks. We call them choppers. That's what they're riding. So when they saw us come in on Gixxers and Hayabusas and these kinds of things, they were like, you guys ain't going to make it. It's not going to happen. So I think the older generation always reigns on the younger generation.
Yeah, sure.
It's not how we like it. I do think they're cream puffs and crybabies. And I think that they're weak and misbehaved. We can't spank them anymore. We can't whip them. They don't have to pray in school. I'm worried. I'm worried about these. They don't fear God. They don't fear anything. They don't know the word no. They get in their first relation. Somebody tells them their first relationship with a girl. She says no. They've been never told no before. They kill a girl themselves in the half of the block. And these guys are going to be flying our airplanes, and they're making marijuana legal. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I think society will work it out.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. It will just change. It will evolve into something different.
Right. That's what I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you a question. Then the next one is really, and I'm going to kind of touch back to the club scene or your club scene as well, in particular. But has your motorcycle experience changed you know, and the club life changed over the years. And obviously, we talked about negative attention and the profiling and everything. Have you felt that within your motorcycle scene, or is it only in particular areas that's been affected?
So my motorcycle experiences have changed drastically. When I first came into the motorcycle club world, I was a prospect. I was a prospect for a long time, many, many years, whereas most people are prospects for only like maybe a year or a year and a half. I was a prospect for multiple years. I just couldn't get right. My name should have been Can't Get Right, because I just couldn't get right. And I was always in trouble in the club, and I was just very happy to be a prospect and ride all over the world. I was carefree. I didn't care about nobody but myself. I wasn't a good brother. I wasn't a good prospect, but I had a patch on, and I felt like I could conquer the world. But it was the most carefree time with brothers I could love and I could trust, and people who loved me for real. It wasn't until I started becoming a leader in the club that I began to get involved with club politics. And
Right.
Politics are always crappy, and it's always grimy, and it's always backstabberish. And so for me, as I rose higher in the ranks of the club, I really got to see the worst part of people, the ugliest part of people. I got to see the worst part of brotherhood, and just how people treat each other when they're trying to get power or make things happen. Sure. So I've seen the very negative side of clubs that really makes you want to leave clubs alone. As a matter of fact, I'm getting ready to do a video called Top 10 Reasons Why I Hate Motorcycle Clubs.
Yeah.
So I almost hate these sons of bitches, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I love them at the same time. So my experience in club life, I will tell you this. If you ever become a president or a national president, you will lose every friend you ever had in your motorcycle club for at least as long as you hold that office.
Yeah, sure.
And It is very, very, very lonely, and it is brittle, and it is fragile. Holding on to power and leadership is a fragile thing, and anything can happen at any moment. And normally when they take you down from being a national president, you normally get shown the door in the ugliest way possible. And that's why you see so many national presidents that have been put out bad and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, sure.
Leadership at the top sucks. And I have a patch that says leadership sucks, but I wouldn't do it any other way.
Yeah.
The negative attention the club gets, my gosh, man, we have targets on us, and I don't care whether you're a 1%er or a 99%er or a family club or a social club. You put that patch on your back, Hollywood and whatever the British equivalent of it is, and Hollywood and all these other places, Bollywood, they make these movies and they form this public opinion, and you're just never going to get rid of it no matter what you do. And that's just part of it. You know that you're going to be an outcast to a greater or lesser extent to society. But it's that way for bikers too. Just anybody on two wheels is seen as a cowboy or some sort of cowboy or some sort of derelict that won't conform. You know, you're too old to be riding that. It's a toy. People don't see it as reliable or stable transportation.
Yeah.
So that I think that just comes with motorcycle riding. It's the cowboy effect, and that's just the way that it is.
Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you then this: do you, within your motorcycle, not within your motorcycle club per se, but within your motorcycle scene or your set, as you call it, now is that predominantly within black motorcycle clubs, or is that right across the board? Does every club have the same kind of issues, the same kind of negativity, the same kind of problems with getting the right kind of new prospects into the club?
Absolutely. And I wouldn't have been able to answer that question for you, except for the last 3.5 years of consulting motorcycle clubs all over the world I spend a good 2 or 3 hours a day, over 1,000 emails a month, sometimes 300 or 400 emails a day, but certainly over 1,000 emails a month. I've even started a consulting business just dealing with motorcycle club issues,
Wow.
which is fm.clarity/black-dragon. And where people, it got so bad that I was like, gee, I can't do this all day. So I partnered with a company that will actually charge people money to call me. And it's from every bike set all across the entire world. They have the same issues of being people: greed, jealousy, ambition, disloyalty, all of the things that come with being people, as well as loyalty, honor, respect, and love. So every motorcycle club goes through it. Drug addiction,
absolutely,
theft from the club, all these things. And we're all just people. But every church goes through it. Every Mason group, every Lions group, every Cub Scout, Boy Scout, every group goes through this, and motorcycle clubs are no different.
Yeah, I was just about to say that actually. Motorcycle clubs aren't, individuals like this, and also, you're a national president. Any kind of leader, any kind of manager, has exactly the same feeling as well. It is tough at the top and it is lonely at the top. You're absolutely right. But as I said to you right at the start, I've always been very interested in not necessarily clubs per se, but more about group dynamics. And I think, as soon as you've got a group of people, it is very hard to maintain that group in order and to keep everybody content, keep everybody happy, keep everybody working for the group. Because as soon as it only takes one person to start going in a different direction, then all of a sudden that can upset the whole apple cart, as we like to say. What do you say?
Absolutely.
Just agree and nod.
I think we have apple carts here too.
Yeah, just agree and nod. And with that great big hat that you're wearing as well.
Absolutely.
Do you remember what we said about your hat?
Oh yeah. Oh, this.
Oh, that's right. Wait, look at that. Look at that. He's just twirled his steps in his cowboy hat. What a fantastic thing that is. Brilliant. Okay, look, I've been waiting to do that for the whole interview, actually.
I thought you're going to forget about it.
Right. Okay, listen. Now, you kind of mentioned this before about expensive Harleys and everything and the electric bikes and all that. What do you think of Harleys? Do you like them or...
So, my first experience with Harleys in America really sucked. As African Americans were starting to buy Harleys, where I was, they wouldn't sell Harleys to black guys.
Right. Yeah.
And so they felt like we shouldn't own a Harley, or it wasn't for our race, or whatever the case may be. So I really became very jaundiced against them, and it wasn't because of the motorcycle. It was, I remember I rode my Gixxer in, and I asked the guy, I was in Oceanside, California, at the Harley Davidson dealership then. This was in the 80s, and I was like, man, I really want to get one of those motorcycles. And the guy told me, they're all sold. Why don't you go down to the Suzuki dealer and get you another bike like the one you were riding? And a friend of mine went in, a white friend went in and was able to get one. And I've kind of held that against Harley forever for that.
Yeah.
Only to find out recently that the guy may have been telling the truth. There was a time that there was a year waiting list to buy a Harley here in the United States. And but that was how they dealt with us all back then. Yeah. So I never really had an opportunity to buy one back then. And so I got a Goldwing instead of the Harley, and it outperformed everything on the highway.
Yeah, great bikes.
And so I stayed with the Goldwings and bikes like that. The Gixxers, I was a speed freak, and I stayed in that kind of line of bikes and never really got to experience a Harley. And then all the way up until the time I became a national president. And then the guys were so pissed off at me for, we got to ride behind a Goldwing. You're the leader of the club. We got to ride behind a damn old man's bike. So that's when I was looking for a motorcycle, and I was looking for an American-made V-twin. And I probably would have bought the Road Glide because I'd come off of a fixed fairing bike.
Yeah.
When I saw that weird-looking, crazy spaceship-looking Victory Vision, and it looked so much kind of like the kind of bike I had just come off of, I went there and never really had an opportunity to be on a Harley. Although I rode them all the time. And, you know, listen, my club, almost everybody has one now.
Yeah.
Or 2 or 3 of them. So I've ridden many of them, but they just didn't get down like the Goldwing, especially through the mountains.
Sure.
And so, but when they got rid of the Victories, so for me, my next bike was going to be some sort of a CVO Harley. Road Glide. That was next. But then those SOBs came out with the Challenger.
The Indian. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So
I tell you what, watch out, cowboy, because those Indians are coming.
They are.
They are definitely coming. I've been saying this for a while now. The Indians are really starting to make bikes that are, I think they're going to be a real big threat to the purse strings of Harley. I think they're going to be making lots of bikes with the technology, and a lot of people are going to be shifting from Harley to Indian. I would not be surprised.
Harley's made some mistakes in marketing that they're going to have to clear up. They have a pretty loyal fan base.
No doubt. Yeah.
But Harley knows, guys like me are dying out. I'm on my last motorcycle or 2. I'm probably, one more motorcycle maybe. And Harley knows that. And they know that young guys have 5 to 20 motorcycles in them. Yeah. And so they're not marketing towards me anymore.
Yeah, they don't care about it as you get older. Absolutely right. Yeah. That's right. Okay, let me ask you a question. So we've already sort of talked about this as well. What the kind of motorcycles that are in your club or in your motorcycle scene. But you touched on it before. I said you were advisor to the film Biker Boys.
Yes.
That is correct, isn't it? Yes. I remember that. Now, great movie. Love that. And I think I even remember seeing you as one of the extras on the film. Is that correct?
I'm at about 30, 40 places in that movie.
Eyes like a hawk, I have.
Eyes like a hawk. Yes, right.
Sir. Now, all the motorcycles in there were all sort of, sports bikes, race bikes, whatever. Most of them anyway. Was that portrayal based upon your experience within the black motorcycle club scene from your area, or was that more like a California style thing?
So, California is kind of interesting because the biker set kind of mixes a little bit. You saw some white riders in the movie. And if you would notice, the white guys in that movie, that one motorcycle club called the Dogs or something like that.
Oh,
they rode around on Harleys, but had race bikes on their trucks that they brought in to race. And that's very typical of. So when I came up on the scene on the black biker set in San Diego and in Oklahoma where I was from. The guys rode choppers, which were really Hondas and Kawasaki's. We really weren't riding Harleys because Harley was absolutely the most unreliable motorcycle that they made. It was owned by AMF, and they fell apart. It was just terrible. Yeah. So if you could afford an import, a Japanese motorcycle. Metric bikes we call it. If you could afford that, you would buy that because it was just much more reliable. If you had a Harley, you had to know how to work on that sucker. Guys I knew wore kidney belts they shook so much, and you'd have to pull that sucker over and tighten up all that. And you just didn't have all that going on with a Japanese bike. So most Black Sabbath, my guys in our club, most of those guys had a couple bikes. They had this chopper that they rode around, and this race bike that they ferried up and down the road for racing. And it just wasn't uncommon for these guys to have a van, a trailer, a motorcycle. A lot of guys had an RV. So these were guys that were really into cars and things. They had good jobs. They were military guys and steel workers and things like that. Right. So yeah, we always had that. That was very typical of our scene. And as the guys started understanding kind of, oh, Harley is the quote unquote best thing to have. Yeah. Then the bros, they were going to have the best thing to have. And so next thing you know, they started bringing these Harleys home. They started with the Fat Boys. And that back then, a Fat Boy was $30-some thousand.
Yeah, sure.
These guys were buying those things left and right. So now, like I say, just about my whole club, they're going to ride the baddest, the fastest, the most beautiful. That's what they're going to have. And so that's what my club has.
So it's interesting you say, I mean, here in the UK, a lot of motorcycle customization, choppers and bobbers and things, actually a lot of that started from old British bikes, sort of Triumphs predominantly, a few Nortons and BSAs, but mostly Triumphs. But a lot of it went into the Japanese bikes, Honda, Suzuki's, Kawasaki's, just customizing those and, turning those into choppers and hardtail frames and things like that. Yeah, there were Harleys on the scene, but it wasn't really such a massive thing because Harleys are expensive. And they were expensive compared to the Japanese imports that were coming, in the 70s and in the 80s, let's say. And it's kind of gone full circle. The Harleys were started to come back and everybody was starting to build Harley choppers and all that kind of stuff. And then the last few years, it's kind of come back again. People are starting to build old British sort of Triumph choppers and bobbers, and obviously all the Japanese ones are coming back in as well. So it's it's a good mix over here, and it sounds very similar to you guys. It's a good mix of bikes and everything. But listen, let me ask you this next question: what okay, we've already talked about other bikes that you might have, you might get, but what is your favorite bike of all time? If you had to say, that's my favorite bike of all time.
It would definitely have to be, oh my goodness. So my favorite bike of all time right now is my Victory Vision Premium Pro.
Yeah.
But I have favorite bikes for different things. Like my favorite all time dirt bike is the Yamaha 490, or is it 495? That was just an awesome bike for me. I loved my three-wheeler ATC 50. That was an awesome bike for me. The CX5.
I remember when they first came out, that ATC 50.
Wasn't that something?
And people were rolling them all the time. They kept on falling off every time I went around the corner with the big fat chunky tires. Is that the one you're on about?
Yes, sir. Yeah. You had to counter steer. You had to be able to.
People weren't doing that though. They weren't doing that. They were just going whoop whoop. Fell off all the time.
When you're on a farm, you learn that real quick,
Oh yeah.
You could ride those things halfway across the lake. They were something else.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
I love the CX500 when I was, in my 17, 18 time period. When the Kawasaki KZ1000 came out, oh my God.
Yeah.
That was a monster. The Interceptor 750 then came out. It was a monster. The FJ 1100 came out, and then the 1200. I had each of those. The Seca 750 was just crazy. It was sick. I had one of those. Then the Kawasaki KZ 1300 was just a big monster bike. You could stand up on the seat and surf it all day long. Then the Z1R came out. That Kawasaki, it was a missile, a quarter-mile killer. Then the GS 1100 and the 1150 ES, and I had the 1150 ES Super Sport, and that thing was a monster. So it's hard for me to call a bike of all times. My first enduro, the Yamaha 125, and then I went to the Kawasaki 125 because it had 6 gears and it was faster. These were the monster bikes I had. Oh my goodness! And then the GSXR 1100, and the Hayabusa 1300, and then I had a ZX Kawasaki ZX14, ZX12 first, and then the ZX14. So
Yeah.
I don't, and then I just rode the Kawasaki Concourse through the mountains.
Yeah.
That thing was so, oh my God, it was so crazy. I don't know, man. I can't call a favorite bike.
It's very hard to do, isn't it? I think that's a bit of a horrible question for you, and I do apologise. Well, I don't really. I think that's I wanted to ask it anyway, so there we go. I think it's a tough question to answer.
Yeah,
You're absolutely right.
I want a snowmobile. I need a snowmobile.
You don't get snow in Atlanta. Stop lying to me.
If I had a snowmobile, I'd find some snow to ride in it. I promise.
I've seen guys actually race those across a lake.
I've seen that.
Yeah. Brilliant. Right. Okay. Listen. Next question then. What kind of motorcycle media? You know, I know you've got websites. I know you've got also YouTube channels, and you write books and everything like that. But what kind of media or YouTube channels or whatever do you find interesting? What do you watch?
So I'm becoming more enamored of the moto vloggers and just the guys that are doing riding. The club thing is good, but there's so many rules, and it's so far away from biking. It's politics and BS. Okay, so I'm starting to, but so I love all the Hollywood at Insane Throttle, Big Cell at FHO ATLGA. You got Dibber in the Wind out there in Europe. These are the guys that have set the mold for biking YouTube channels.
Yeah.
I loved Sons of Anarchy. I watched I didn't watch for like the first couple 3 years, but once I hit on it, I was all over Sons of Anarchy. I loved Biker Boys. I loved all the Easy Rider. I loved all those movies, all that media. But I like guys like Adam Sandoval and Chase on Two Wheels and
RevelatorAlf.
Yeah, and that one guy, Cycle Cruiser, who's always having a bad MF day, and I like Shade Tree Mechanic, and I like a guy
RevelatorAlf.
Yes, yeah, I love those guys. I watch those.
Say his name. Say his name.
Who?
RevelatorAlf.
Revelator. I love those guys. RevelatorAlf.
Yeah, RevelatorAlf. Say it again.
RevelatorAlf.
There we go. Say it again.
RevelatorAlf. I love these guys because I like the fact that they're riders and they're going out and they're riding and they're showing riding like I first learned it. I didn't learn riding in a motorcycle club. I learned riding on my own. I rode by myself. I was out one time. It was so dark. You couldn't see. It was so pitch black. And then a lightning bolt struck, and you could feel it go through your body. I had never been more afraid in my whole life. A tornado was coming. I've ridden in tornadoes and storms and all that. This is riding. And that's what these cycle cruisers and RevelatorAlfs and stuff, that's what these guys are doing. And I think that is an absolutely exciting direction that motorcycle media is going in. And I absolutely want to be part of that.
Oh, well, you should. We should definitely get together on a ride one day. Definitely. I'll bring my hat. I've got a very special hat as well, which I haven't got. It's hanging up somewhere. But I might even buy one of your hats as well.
Come on.
Oh, there we go. Right. Okay. The very last question. I've really enjoyed talking to you, actually. It's been great fun. But let me ask you this one question. If there's one thing that you would change about modern motorcycling or the motorcycle scene, or it doesn't have to be about club scene, whatever, what would that be?
I would, if I could change something, I would definitely try to get the guys to break away from the violence. and the gang related culture that has come into the motorcycle scene, especially the motorcycle club scene. It is destroying it for all of us. These guys don't seem to have a long thinking game plan in the thinking cap, and they don't seem to be concerned or bothered with what it takes to survive long term. They're, for them, winding up in a prison cell is a badge of honor, but for us, it destroys our credibility, and it destroys our ability to continue this way of life, because citizens are getting tired of it. Just like overnight in Australia, they just got rid of all the guns one day.
Yeah.
I guess in UK, people don't get to walk around with guns or anything like that. Here in the United States, we're like Baghdad. You can have machine guns,
absolutely,
anything else you want, and but if you don't take care of those rights and privileges, you lose them. They go away, and I think we could see that.
Yeah, I think it's true to say that with any power or any privilege, there is a great deal of responsibility, and I think sometimes a lot of people, not just in the motorcycling world, but in society in general, they kind of forget that. They kind of forget, what that's all about. And for me, from what I see, I think the motorcycle scene, not necessarily club scene, but clubs as well, rally scene, whatever, it's all changing. The demographics are changing. People are getting older. Younger people are not really coming into those kind of traditional scenes. They seem to be doing their own thing, doing different things. You're talking about, all the kids going riding around in their groups, in their enduros. That all started back in Philadelphia, I believe. In Philly, those kids riding around on the streets. They started making a few YouTube videos or a few videos, and that kind of grew from there. Then other cities started doing it. Then all of a sudden, guess what? You're starting to get flash mobs or whatever you are. And people think, yeah, this is really cool. Well, they probably don't care about the law. They don't care about, getting in trouble with the law. But they probably will care when somebody in their SUV gets really hacked off with them and decides to run them over, which actually happened in the US about 3 years ago. I can't remember. I actually saw some footage. One of these, and the guy in the SUV just ran him over. He just thought, right, get out of my way. And, as I say, if you don't think about the rest of the people, then ultimately it makes it bad for everybody. It makes it bad for us, and it'll make it bad for yourself as well. So, but anyway, if I had to change one thing in the club scene or in the motorcycle scene right now, I would try and get some kind of reconnection between rider and machine, and not necessarily. There seems to be that bikes have got so technical, so advanced that people don't even know how these things work anymore. They don't know the basics of maintaining them or whatever, and that's only going to get worse as the bikes get more technical, as they get more expensive. There's going to be a greater disconnect between rider and machine, and I think if that can somehow come back together, there'd be a greater appreciation of being on two wheels. There'd be a greater appreciation of being in a motorcycle scene and knowing that we may be different, but we stand side by side because we're just on two wheels, and that's all that matters, really.
Precisely. Precisely the reason I didn't buy the new Gold Wing with the automatic shift. And to take away shifting from motorcycling to me is sacrosanct. I mean, it's terrible.
It's odd, isn't it? It's odd. I can't get my head around that either.
And I have to tell you this, as a motorcycle club biker, I don't get to enjoy biking. A lot of times I tell you, I love all that stuff because typically for us, it's a long distance ride to get to a chapter. And we're not riding, so we got to go to a chapter function or this political function or that political function. And because we're a national club, we're spread out all over the country, and you're running. The reason we're running 1,000 miles in a day is because we got to get there and then get back for work Monday. So we're running, and you don't get to it. So you got to have all those creature comforts so you can put the butt on the seat and get the evidence. But America is running by you like that.
Yeah.
And so you don't get to connect with the machine as much. You need more frilly stuff to get you there and get you back. As I'm retiring now, I'm going to be biking a little bit different, and I'll be back to maybe solo biking, pulling over on the side of the road, taking a week to get somewhere.
Yeah.
And we'll see what that is, and we'll see if there is a connection more with the machine and the iron, and maybe you see me on a 650 something, putting along at 80 miles an hour.
Well, I tell you what, I'll tell you something which I did before I got my latest bike, the Harley. I had an adventure bike, a Triumph, and I spent possibly the best part of 2 years just purely, for the most part, on back roads or on dirt trails and everything. And it always amazed me that I could get off a main road, get off a highway, I get off a main road and literally just go on the other side of a set of trees or a hedge line or something like that. And I'd be riding on a dirt trail that's right next to the road, but you're in another world. You're in a totally other world, totally other dimension. And it's almost like nobody ever goes to find out these places. So it's, for me, it was a real reconnection, not only with biking, but with my kind of biking roots and dirt bike riding, and actually just to get out of the environment and to slow down. It was, as you say, not go at 80, 90 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour. It was just to slow down and just enjoy what it is, you know. So that's what you should do. Get yourself on an enduro bike. Go get on some dirt trails in Atlanta. Go and fight a few zombies in the forest. And there we go.
Oh, that's what they do here.
Yeah.
We got zombies here.
Yeah, you should paint zombie killer on your bike as well. There we go.
Absolutely.
Right, listen, Black Dragon, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, I've got to say.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I wish you all of the greatest success with your channel. It's been a pleasure talking to you. This is probably the most in-depth interview I've ever had, so really interesting.
Well, I'll tell you what, next time we'll do another interview. I'll make it really, really in-depth. It'll be like being interrogated by Charlie Rose or something.
We'll see.
Well, come on. Well, we can get real deep down. I don't think that's my style. You know what I mean? But anyway, look, it's been an absolute pleasure. Everybody, go check out Black Dragon Biker TV. You know, look, even if you're not into motorcycle clubs, I'll tell you, the information there is just so interesting. And as I say the whole time, you listen to your voice for hours and hours and hours. I say you should be a storyteller. You should be doing audio books or something like that. And because of just that voice, absolutely brilliant. But I want to see you on the road one day.
Our audio books are coming out, and you can get the voice only on my podcast, The Dragon's Lair Motorcycle Chaos. The Dragon's Lair Motorcycle Chaos, everywhere you get podcasts, you know, iTunes, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, all those places, Spotify.
There you go. You see, I knew it was there. I knew it was there. Well, that's brilliant. Listen, go check him out. Go check out his channel, all the podcasts, all everything like that, all the books. Really cool stuff. Anyway, but it's a goodbye from me, and it's a goodbye from you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. That's my 2 cents. Get skinny.
Thanks very much. Right, everybody, thanks very much for that. Please leave your comments below. Let us know what you think of all the questions that I've asked and all the answers and your experiences, whether United States or anywhere else in the world. And go check out Black Dragon Biker TV, as I say. And please like, share, subscribe, leave those comments. Go check out my website as well, RevelatorAlf.com, because there's lots of cool stuff there. And I'll catch you again on the next video. Well, coming very, very soon. But this has been another Oh My Harley, or in Black Dragon's case, Oh, my victory. Okay. Bye now.